Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer, and today we are going to get back into 49ers quarterback discussion. That's right, the 49ers quarterback's been a hot topic this offseason. Today it's going to be looking through the eyes of 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. You know, Deebo Samuel, he's been in the news a little bit this week already after having a interview with Zach Galb on CBS Sports Radio, and a little prematurely. You probably have already heard the part of the discussion in which Samuel takes exception to the questions regarding the 49ers and the Eagles. But prior to that, there was actually some interesting discussion regarding the 49ers quarterback position. In particular, he started off with Samuel being asked who he thinks the best quarterback is, and who he expects to be the starter, whether he thinks that's going to be Brock Purdy or Trey Lance. He shut that down, so that needs to go through Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. But then it gets interesting because then they start getting into the players themselves. And Gelb asked Deebo Samuel if he thinks that Brock Purdy can put up the same type of performance that he did in his small sample size last year. Remember, he only had the 8 games that he started and completed. He played, I believe, around 11, 12 games total during the season, at least some parts in that, but he threw a pass in at least 10 of them. And so Gelb asked if they would be able to see that kind of performance, and Deebo Samuel said, yeah, I expect to see him do what he did last season. And in terms of extrapolating that over the full 17-game season, Deebo Samuel with a short answer of yes, sir. And again, and this makes sense, really, when you look at it from Deebo Samuel's perspective, when you look at it from Brock Purdy, and you look at the metrics, and you look at all the things that go into quarterback play in the NFL. Brock Purdy played at a high level, and he has a great head coach and system around him, a number of great players. So I don't think that if Brock Purdy's fully healthy, then that's the qualifier. Brock Purdy has to be fully healthy, physically and mentally. From there, I think he'd be able to go out, and I agree with Deebo Samuel that he should be able to play at a high level. Now, here's the other part that should get 49ers fans excited. This discussion wasn't just about Brock Purdy, it was also about Trey Lance as well, as I mentioned. And when it comes to the Trey Lance portion of the discussion, Gelb asked what he sees, what Deebo Samuel sees in Trey Lance, and it was a short, quick answer. Very versatile, strong arm, smart young man. That is what Deebo Samuel had to say about Trey Lance. All those things are correct. Those are very good responses. I agree with those completely. And then he says, what has Trey Lance shown you over the last few years? And this is the part that I think should get 49er fans excited and interesting. It says, according to Deebo Samuel, how fast Trey Lance can pick things up. And, you look at it, he had a lot of things thrown at him at once. His first year, he was behind Jimmy Garoppolo. And when he first got a chance to show people what he could do, he got injured. But then coming back from the injury, this is where it gets exciting. Back into minicamp, watching Trey, it's been a significant improvement. So, there's been a lot of discussion around Trey Lance this offseason from people outside of San Francisco, from national people who weren't around during minicamp, were around during OTAs, who were reading reports from outside of the organization, what have you. And they've been pretty negative on Trey Lance. But when you actually were there, if you were there, you saw a guy who played at a decent level. Now, was he maybe as efficient as Trey Lance or as Brock Purdy? No, maybe not, but he still had spurts where he showed some good, strong promise, and we'll see how this all plays out. We don't know what's going to happen right now with Brock Purdy. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, he's still working his way back from the torn UCL. We're probably going to see him early in training camp, would be my expectation, probably somewhere around the middle of August. I would think that we're going to see him back on the practice field. Before that, though, we're going to get to see a lot of Trey Lance. We're going to get to see a lot of Sam Darnold and a lot of Brandon Allen as well. And we're going to get a really good look at Trey Lance, and we're going to see these improvements. And even if Brock Purdy is the guy, even if Brock Purdy is the number one starter, Trey Lance improving, Trey Lance continuing his progression is good for the 49ers. We've seen in San Francisco a single quarterback start every game during the regular season, just one time, that coming in 2019. So even if Brock Purdy starts week 1, there's a high likelihood that he's not going to start all 17 games. If you need to rely on Trey Lance to come in, you want to make sure that he's as good as possible. Hey, remember how good he played against the Houston Texans in week 17 of the 2021 season? If that player is improved here in 2023 for the 49ers, it's a good thing. So there you have it. Take it for what it's worth. Deebo Samuel with good words for both Brock Purdy and Trey Lance during his interview on Monday. Let me hear what you think of it. If you can, please do me a favor, hit that like button, and then once you do that, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And then once you subscribe, also turn on your notifications, because with training camp coming up right around the corner, I promise you're not going to want to miss any of the updates right here on Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk with you soon.